Hey guys, welcome to episode 89 of This Week in BJJ. Today is September 30th, 2015, and topics on today's show include 2 new live events, the Respect 2, and also the Abu Dhabi Grand Slam Los Angeles. There's also 2 new instructional on-demand videos, and an interview with well-known Chicago BJJ instructor Adem Redzovic. So coming up in the middle of the month, middle of October, we have 2 live events. They're both going to be streamed live on BudoVideos.com. We talked a little bit about this last episode, but the first one is going to be on October 17th. It's called Respect. This is the second event that they've done. And on this event, there's going to be it's going to be hosted in St. Louis, Missouri. There's going to be 16 super fights. 2 of them include some pretty big names. We have Gianni Grippo facing off against Jeff Curran, and Megaton versus Chris Hauter. So that'll be on BudoVideos.com/respect2. And again, that's going to be on Saturday, October 17th. So mark that down in your calendar. It's definitely going to be a great event. Now, the very next day is the Abu Dhabi Grand Slam. What is the Abu Dhabi Grand Slam? Well, it's put on by the Sheikh of Abu Dhabi, so you know there's some good money behind it and a lot of drive to make this a successful event. They're doing 4 events around the world. The first one was in Japan. Second one is going to be here in Los Angeles, and there's going to be a third one in Rio and another one in London. So again, this is going to be on October 18th. You can still sign up for the tournament. There is over $57,000 in cash prizes across all belt colors and even the Masters division. So it's a really good opportunity to compete in a world-class event and make some money. So go check out UAEJJF.org to sign up. And be sure to watch the free live broadcast on BudoVideos.com/Grand Slam on October 18th. Now it's time for new products. As you guys know, for most of the products that we release in terms of instructional videos, we release them in 3 formats: DVDs, on-demand, and apps for iPhone and Google. So today there's 2 new on-demands. These are not brand new instructionals, but they're new to the on-demand format. The first one is Bernardo Faria's Pressure Passing Encyclopedia. If you follow competition jiu-jitsu, you know Bernardo is the biggest name right now in the jiu-jitsu competition world. He's really good at pressure passes, particularly the over-under pass, and he shows it from every position, shows how to smash all the modern guards using pressure. So it's gotten really good reviews, and Bernardo's a great teacher and a super nice guy, and you know, number 1 in the world right now, really. So it's on 4 volumes, all available on BudoVideos.com. Next one is Neck Breaker by Eric Paulson. If you guys watched the roll-up episode with Eric or some of his other instructionals, you know that Eric Paulson is an encyclopedia of grappling knowledge, not just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but Shudo and old school MMA, all kinds of stuff this guy has studied. And neck cranks are something that's kind of outside of the typical jiu-jitsu curriculum, but Eric Paulson is a good guy to teach it. He shows a ton of ways to break people's necks. It's called Neck Breaker, right? It was originally released on 2 DVDs. Now it's available as a single on-demand product. Check it out on BudoVideos.com. Okay, now it's time to introduce Adem Redzovic. Adem is a well-known instructor in the Chicago area. He used to be with Gracie Baja. Now he's independent. He and his brother both run a network of schools there, and a really interesting guy. He came out with an instructional a little while back called Basically Escaping Side Control, and he, he's a deep thinker in terms of jiu-jitsu movement. He has a lot of good ideas, and that instructional got a lot of great reviews as well, so be sure to check that out. But here we go, interview and techniques by Adem Redzovic. Adem, how did your jiu-jitsu journey begin?
I think the first time I've ever heard of jiu-jitsu, like most people, is the UFC. I remember I was at my uncle's house. I was really young, and it was the cool uncle that used to order the pay-per-views, So he ordered this pay-per-view, and we saw what Hoist did. And I remember I was not crazy about it. I wanted to see the kung fu action. I wanted to see the kickboxing. I wanted to see someone get knocked out. But that's the first time I saw it. And when I was in high school, my brother started training. So my brother started to give me the Gracie in Action DVDs to watch.
DVDs or tapes?
Tapes, yeah. I don't even think DVDs were probably out back then, huh? Like, when I walking around the house, he'll grab me and put me in a move, and I was basically his grappling dummy. And I remember taking my first class, and I actually quit several times. I was not going to class. I was, the structure that was there at that time was, it's not the most positive learning environment. And it's not anyone's fault. The level of experience in Chicago in that group was just, the highest rank we had was a blue belt. So it was just basically a room full of tough guys with some, a few techniques, just beating the crap out of each other. So I was a young, pretty boy in high school. I used to play basketball, put a lot of gel in my hair and stuff. So when I would go there, they just beat me up. And then next time my brother would try to, have me tag along, I'd give him some type of excuse. This is hurting, that's hurting. My uncle is a chiropractor, and I remember telling him, hey, write a letter to my brother, tell him something's broken, just to give me a month off, So, but that's how it was. My brother would drag me to the training. I would not enjoy it. And looking back, it was because I was just getting beat up. I was the smallest, the youngest person in the room. So it's not fun to get beat up. But I think a lot of that changed. I remember I was walking in the neighborhood, and I was walking past the place that they were training, and I was just looking in the window, and my brother flagged me in. He said, get in here. And he threw a gi on me and forced me on the mats again. But this time there was a guy there who was actually like my age, So we ended up sparring, and I got my first submission. So it was my first submission, and I remember that was it. I was like really excited and motivated, and so then my brother gave me a job. He's like, now you have to like open the school, clean the school. So now I had another, that's how my brother kind of works, he's kind of sneaky like that, but it was good. It was a big blessing, and here I am today, 15 plus years later.
Very few people make it 15 years, let alone 5 years in jiu-jitsu. You see we sell all different belts, and we sell tons of blue belts, but not many purple belts, hardly any brown belts, and rarely a black belt. Was it difficult for you to stay motivated all that time, or was it a straight shot?
Definitely have your peaks and valleys. You have your walls. There's certain times where you see, you see what you're capable of, and sometimes you see things that you feel like those are my limitations, So I think that's how motivation is. It's not something that's static. It doesn't stay the same. I can watch a Rocky movie right now and get really pumped to train, Or something else can happen. Maybe the weather gets a little bit cloudy and I don't really feel like training. So I think definitely, it's a journey full of challenges. I think that's the nature of the journey, is to prepare you for challenges, But the nature of it is challenging, and I definitely had mine, injuries, and you know how it goes.
When you think back on your jiu-jitsu career, is there one biggest difficulty that you can remember?
I had a pretty bad injury at the brown belt level. I had a few discs in my low lumbar completely herniated, to the point where I couldn't walk. I remember my wife, God bless her, she was like 9 months pregnant, and she was carrying me to the washroom to use the washroom.
She must be a strong lady.
Yeah, and that was, I think, for my whole journey, that was the most depressing, because I did what like a lot of people do. I went on Google, and I started to see, what is a herniated disc? And then I started to read the horror stories, how you're not gonna feel your leg anymore, or, you can't do this, you can't do that. I remember going to the doctors and, being recommended for surgery. One doctor told me, you won't be able to train unless you have the surgery. So that whole time was just very depressing. But a big credit I have to give to my friend, Dr. Peter Goldman. He's a fantastic healer.
Bay Area, right?
In the Bay Area. He works with the best of the best. And he was one person who really, convinced me of the body's ability to heal itself. and basically just changed my perspective, from going from Google and reading horror stories to actually believing in the body's ability to heal. That helped me tremendously. But I would say that was the hardest point of my journey, the brown belt. I had to take like 6 months off. I couldn't train, I had to just heal.
So it goes without saying, but you did not have surgery.
I did not have surgery, and that's, when you have disc injuries, I was actually talking about this with one of my friends, the human being, sometimes you'll see someone, he'll have, what we might consider a very minor injury, but to him, it's so major, he's collecting a disability check. Mm-hmm. He's broken for life. His mentality, that's how he's like, oh, I have a bum, this, that, or whatever. But I think, injuries, they happen. We try to say, not talk about it, but you're going to tweak something every now and then. If you're training long enough, if you're training, consistently, something's going to happen. We hope for the best. But I think through the journey, through the training, now I maybe just warm up a little bit differently. But it's like just another obstacle I have to find a technical way of kind of maneuvering around. But I think that's one of the blessings of living this life. You find a way to deal with play the hand that you're dealt. And I look at my injury, and I'm not here sitting like, oh, I'm broken. No, my back today is much stronger than it was before I hurt it. I don't have limitations. During my healing, I had some limitations, but I look at the blessing. I actually became a more well-rounded grappler. I couldn't do certain things, but it forced me to do other things. To become a little bit more well-rounded.
Mm-hmm. So getting back to your training history a little bit, who were some of your role models or big influences?
My brother is the one who started me, in the training, and he was my teacher day to day. And he was also, we're on the journey together. He was like a blue belt when I started, and that was like the level of training that we had at our place in Chicago at that time. That was kind of as good as it got, like blue belt. Sometimes a purple belt would visit, and that was a big honor, and then we would have black belts come out for seminars. But my brother's teachers were major role models to me. Like we were talking before, Marcio Feitosa is like, just an amazing person to especially when I was a teenager, looking up to somebody who was we all love a winner. We want to, people want to be around a champion. Marcio was a champion. So he was a great example of someone who's a champion, good shape, lived the jiu-jitsu lifestyle, was not, glamorizing anything negative. He was a very positive person, so he for sure was a major, impact on my journey. And honestly, like I kind of feel bad even naming one person, because we've had so much positive influence from so many sides of the Gracie family and outside the family. But Marcio definitely was a major impact.
When you say Marcio was a champion, of course he was. In our industry, we tend to always look at who the champions are. We had AACC recently. We look at the guys who took gold, and a lot of people only focus on the winners. Is that all? Is that the main thing that's important in your life? Winning big tournaments?
For me personally, like tournaments have no. They're not a part of my life at this stage of my life. I definitely think tournaments. I don't push my students to compete. I'm not there kind of like, push them towards that. I do recommend it. I recommend that everyone should try it. I think it's just, if you're training, jiu-jitsu, I think it's a good life experience, dealing with your adrenaline and emotions and everything, I think it's just something to see if you like, to just put on your, how do you call it, like a resume? Bucket list or something,
bucket list, yeah.
But when it comes to the winning tournaments, there's a lot more involved than just like having good jiu-jitsu. Like you have some people who come to train that they're just naturally not competitive people. You have other people who are extremely competitive, and that's going to have an impact on their results, And you have some people who naturally have more physical gifts, and you have some people who are working with less, and there's so many factors that come into winning those tournaments, so those are some things that have to, I remind my students too, You know, like if my student comes and they're having great success, okay, good, that's really good. You're doing something. This is really, you know, give you props. But we have to also look at the circumstances. What were the rules of that tournament? Mm-hmm. If the rules were different, would it be the same result? You know, how many people were in that division? You know, like there's so many things come into it. I don't think it's. I think the jiu-jitsu community naturally is glamorizing it enough, or I don't feel like I have to. Everyone knows, you know, like, you know, that's cool. You know, you want a tournament. This is, you know, that's great. For me personally, I don't push people for tournaments. I look at myself as I'm a teacher, and I'm going to teach an art, and you're going to take what you can from it, what you like. Some people will like to compete. Some people don't. Some people will like to, you know, just become empowered through the experience, you know, but I'm not going to place one higher than the other. For me, we're all students, we're all on the same team, we're in the same classroom, and, you know, it's kind of my perspective.
Yeah, and the person that wins the tournaments, or at least does well in tournaments, isn't always the one with the best or the most well-rounded jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of these guys don't have a whole lot of responsibilities. Some of them are fortunate to be able to just train 100%, whereas there's guys like Jimmy Friedrich, who I talked to at ADCC, who's working a full-time job and still competing at the highest level. So all those factors have to be in there too.
You have some people out there that are just like really have a really strong position. Mm-hmm. I have one training partner of mine, he's not technical. He can't teach, you know, he's not going to offer you much technically. He's not going to blow you away with, you know, the amount of knowledge he has. But he has a certain past that's just extremely hard to stop. Just, you know, and that can translate to medals, you know. But I encourage him, like, hey, don't be satisfied with just picking up these medals and getting a big head. Remember, there's more to learn. We have to become well-rounded, you know. So that's kind of my perspective on that.
Yeah, and you know, you're a big, strong guy. A lot of bigger guys have, you know, maybe they're better on the top than they are at the bottom. But when I see you training and teaching, it seems like you have a very well-rounded game. And not too long ago, you put out an open guard translated video. What promoted you? Why did you put out that video?
A few reasons. One, as a teacher, I think it's challenging. Our classes are 1 hour. I know some places you go, it's going to be an hour and a half, 2 hours. But typically, we've decided, ever since we've started, we've always had 1 hour classes. So, you know, whenever I'm teaching a certain position, sometimes I kind of like just engulf myself in the position, thinking about it, researching, really trying to, you know, translate that information to the best of my ability to my students, but I'm limited by the time. So I wanted to have something for my students, a reference for them to, you know, watch and just kind of help supplement their training. But another reason why I did it was I want to have some type of contribution to jiu-jitsu. I might die tonight, you know what I mean? Like, and now my kids might have no record of what my thoughts were on the art, you know? So I think having a recorded record of something like that was also motivated me to get that job done, you know? So I think it was great. I basically just took the lessons that I felt were important to me and my journey, tried to compress them and deliver them, and, you know, I think it took us half an hour or something like that. But I think those are the motivating factors. For like all the video stuff I'm doing, the underlying thing at this time is it helps it easier to manage the school too. You know, I have now 3 schools in Chicago, me, my brother, my cousin. We have our students who've opened up schools surrounding Chicago. So now I think it's good to have something as a reference. You have references everywhere, but what's our reference? What's our perspective? How do we kind of, you know, see things? So, you know, this makes things easier for you. Now I have a new guy who wants to, you know, do a private lesson on the open guard. Perfect. Go check this thing out. It's going to be helpful for you. You know?
Right. We'll put the link in the description below, but I thought it was a really cool video. And the one part that really grabbed me was when you related the open guard to mountain climbing.
Yeah.
Can you, if you guys haven't seen it, can you run by that again?
This I have to give the credit to Samuel Braga, because I learned that analogy as a black belt, and I was blown away by it. And the analogy was giving priority to points of contact. You know, when the guard is open, you have so much things going on. You have your plan, he has his plan. You have your anxiety and energy, and all this stuff is, you know, expectation, all that. Number one priority, just make sure you're connected with the guy. Make sure you're not playing guard with this hand not doing nothing, this foot lingering on the side of his body, you know. So the analogy was, if you have a guy climbing a mountain, can he climb a mountain with just one hand? It's not possible. Can he climb a mountain with two hands? It's still not possible. Two hands and 1 foot, he'll probably make some strides, but ideally he needs to have a good connection with the mountain. 2 hands, 2 feet, and if one of those connections slip, I can imagine climbing a mountain with no support. My life depends on those grips, those points of contact. So if this guy's foot slips, there is nothing else on his mind but to get that point of contact back. So that analogy, I think, is good to kind of drive home the importance of grip fighting and points of contact when the guard is open. You know, it's going to happen. You put your foot on his hip, his job is to remove the foot off the hip. So now you recognize, I just got disconnected, I need to reconnect it somewhere, you know. So I thought this made a big impact on me, and definitely I think is one of the more popular principles from that video.
Right. And whenever you're learning something, you can always think about it on the flip side. Like, you're teaching how to use the open guard, but like you just mentioned, you can think of it in terms of passing the open guard. So if he wants to have all 4 contacts and you're passing, you want to break one of those contacts.
Yeah, 100%. This video, for me personally, I look at it actually as a guard passing video. You know, like it's an open guard video, but if you, just like you said, you just reverse everything, it's going to make you a more comfortable, confident guard passer, because now you know about all the micro battles.
Right.
Sometimes you get stuck in these micro battles, and that's where you get anxiety. You ever been like trying to pass someone's guard? Maybe you're behind his feet for too long, and you're really thinking about the big picture, about getting chest to chest and head control and all that, but you don't realize that there's a micro battle going on, the first line of defense, you know, and now because you can't get the big picture, you start to freak out, you know. So this is really helpful. One guy who I like watching is Roger Gracie. If you notice, when he starts making progressions, very rarely does he make a regression. So when you see him pass the first line of defense, passes the second line of defense, then passes it's like he's a great example of somebody who's just like marching forward, you know. So those are the little lines I think is good to identify, you know, on your march.